Hi, third grade. This is going to be your first math instructional video for Learn at Home packet number 2. And it's also going to be your first opportunity to submit your answers online through Google Classroom. There are 2 YouTube videos that show you how to join the classroom and then how to submit answers electronically. So you can still do this in paper and scan it in, but you can also do the worksheet directly in the Google Classroom. So your Learn at Home packet number 2 starts off, all of your Christ-Light lessons are on the top, and then when you flip through all of the Christ-Light stories, you get to the math section, and this is going to be the very first lesson, lesson 96 on averages. Now we are going to be combining lesson 96 and 97 in this same video because average and mean are synonyms. Lesson 96 covers mean, median, mode, and range, and mean and average are the same thing. So I think that having those lessons flow together helps hit home the fact that those are the same thing. You can call it mean, you can call it average, and you're still going to do that the same way. So even though lesson 96 is in the block plan for Monday, lesson 97 is in the block plan for Tuesday, I will be doing one video that's going to cover all of that information. So for lesson 96 and 97, the objectives that we're covering are find the average of a set of data, describe the characteristics of data in a set, determine the mean, median, mode, and range of a set of data. And you can see that I have up here, I have average / mean because those are the same thing. So I am going to erase my objective, and we are going to start working on how you would find average. Now, average is something that I actually use all the time. And believe it or not, you guys are actually using averages. Your grades that you get are always an average. That's why if it's the very first week of a quarter and we had a test and you didn't do so well, your grade's going to look really bad until you have more grades that are added in to help bring up your average. So your grades on your report card and your progress reports every Friday, those are all averages of the grades that you've gotten in that class. And that's why I say it's easier to start the quarter off on the right foot. It's going to be easier if you start with a high average. And if you start out with a low average and you have to work extra hard to bring your grade up, this lesson is going to illustrate that. So right now, I am looking just at the worksheet for lesson 96. So we're going to go over the top. It says to find the average. First, you need to add up the numbers, and they're talking about all the numbers that are in that data set. We'll see that in a minute. Then count how many numbers were added together. Then divide by the sum of that number. And we're going to do several examples between lesson 96 and lesson 97. So to give you an example here, it says there are 4 buckets of water. The first bucket has 15 pints. The second bucket has 8 pints. The third has 9 pints, and the fourth bucket has 20 pints. What was the average number of pints per bucket? So you can do cubes on this if you want. I still always recommend doing cubes. So what I would do is I would circle 4 buckets. That's you're circling your numbers and your units. I would circle 15 pints, 8 pints, 9 pints, and 20 pints. Then you are going to underline your question. The question is, what was the average number of pints per bucket? You're going to box key words, and average is a key word there because that's telling me what I need to do with the information given. There's nothing to eliminate. So this is what it looks like when I've done cubes to that word problem. I circled my numbers and my units, pints and buckets. I underlined my question, and average is the key word that tells me what operation I need to do. And there's an illustration down there at the bottom, but I think it's always easier if we go through it step by step. So The first step, step number one, is you're going to add all of the numbers. So in this particular example, it's pints. So I am going to add the first bucket. It says had 15 pints. So I'm going to get 15 on here. And then it says that the second bucket had 8 pints plus 8. The third bucket has 9 pints. And the fourth bucket has 20 pints. And so I'm going to add those up first. That's step number one. So it's a good thing that this lesson comes after multi-step word problems, because a lot of times if you do one math problem, it's like, oh, I'm done. Nope, that's just the first step. You have to do different operations in each step of this problem. So I'm going to chunk this just because it's easier the way that my brain works. I'm going to say 8 plus 9 is 17. 15 plus 20, because those are 5s and 0s, those are easy for me to add in my head. So I know that 15 plus 20 is 35. So I've got 35 plus 17. 5 plus 7 is 2. 1 plus 3 plus 1 is 5. So 52 pints. Now, a good rule of thumb to try to remember with averages is your average is going to be somewhere between the lowest and the highest number in your data set. And we'll talk about that more in lesson 97. But I would not want to guess that 52 is an average, because that's nowhere near any of these numbers. That's my sum of all of the numbers in my data set. So 52 is how many total pints she had between those 4 buckets. So I'm going to keep that number on my whiteboard. And step number 2 says, oh, I should have left those numbers up there. Count how many were in your data set. But I just said there's 4 buckets. 52 total pints in 4 buckets. So you're going to divide by the sum by the number of pieces of data. So 52 total pints is going to be divided by my 4 buckets. 5 divided by 4 is 1. 1 times 4 is 4. 5 minus 4 is 1. 12 is a multiple of 4, so I know that will divide in evenly. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So on average, there were 13 pints in each bucket, even though not a single bucket actually had 13 pints. Remember, one had 15, one had 8, one had 9, and one had 20. But 13 is going to be the average. Like, that's a good guess for about 13 per bucket. You see that the lowest number was 8, the highest number was 20. My average has to fall between my lowest and highest number for it to be a reasonable answer. You're going to see that more in lesson 97, and part of that is the reason that I'm combining these 2 videos. We're going to do number 1 on your worksheet together. Yep, you're going to get some freebies, but that's okay, because we're going to then go into lesson 97, and we're going to use a completely different example than they give us on that worksheet for that. So I am looking at number 1. In the practice section. And it says, Jarrell has a book to read for class. He read 35 pages the first day and 75 pages the second day. He read a lot the second day, not so much the first day. If he reads 45 pages on the third and fourth day, how many pages does he read on average per day? So my smallest number is 35. 35 is the least amount that he read. 75 is the most that he read. My average is going to have to be somewhere between 35 and 75. So the first step, and they kind of help you with those steps there, they say you're going to add up all of the numbers that are in that data set. So in this particular problem, it's not pints per bucket, it's pages per day. So on the first day, he read 35 pages. And they line this up vertically on your worksheet, so I'm going to do it vertically on the whiteboard. The second day, he read 75. And then on the third and the fourth day each, he read 45. So he read 45 on day 3, 45 on day 4. So the first thing I'm going to do is add that all up. 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5. There's some repeated addition for you. 5 times 4 is 20. 0 goes in my ones column. 2 gets carried over to the tens column. Now remember, when we're adding a whole bunch of add-ins, we want to chunk that and look for groups of 10. And I am really lucky I've got a couple in here. So 3 plus 7, that's a group of 10. And 4 plus 4 is 8, plus 2 is also 10. So 10 plus 10 is 20. I'm in my tens column, so it's going to make it 200 pages. So the book that Jarrell read was 200 pages. That is the step 1. Find the sum of the data set. Then I have to count up how many pieces of data did I have. So in this case, it's how many days did he read? 1, 2, 3, 4. He read for 4 days. So I'm going to divide 200 by 4. And I like this one because I can use mental math, because I see in here I've got a multiple of 4. I'm going to put that 0 up on the top right away. And 20 divided by 4 I know is 5. So I don't really even need to do long division for that, even though it's a triple digit dividend. 50 pages per day is the average that he read, even though he didn't read 50 on any day. He read 35 the first day, he read a lot the second day, and then he read pretty close to 50 on the day 3 and day 4. 50 is between 35 and 75. So that is a reasonable answer. He read 50 pages per day on average. So you are on your own for number 2 on that. And if you do number 2 and you're like, that was a lot of information, I think I'm done for the day, that's totally fine. You can do that in one day and then move on and continue tomorrow with mean, median, mode, and range and do lesson 97 on a different day. That's totally fine. I think that because mean is the same as average, for me, it's easier to just keep going ahead because I wouldn't want time to pass and then completely forget how to do average, because in my opinion, finding the mean is the most difficult part of finding mean, median, mode, and range of a data set. So now that I know the hardest part, I want to just keep going and find out what the easier parts are. So we are moving on. We are on lesson 97 now. Just going to change the top of my whiteboard to say 97. And we're going to go through the top of the worksheet, but then I'm going to give you my own data set for us to practice with, and then you'll do the 3 questions on your own. So lesson 97 is on the back of lesson 96, because if we were still in class, we would be doing this all on one day, but your assignment would be the worksheet, not the normal 30 problem set, because this is a lot of information and you'll see there's a whole lot of blanks in here. Yeah, it looks like it's 3 problems, but they're all multi-step problems. So you're actually doing quite a lot of work here. So this says mean, median, mode, and range at the top. And remember, mean is average. Mean and average are the same thing. So if we're looking at those bullet points at the top, it says the mean is the average of a list of numbers. The median is the middle number when the numbers are arranged in order. So one step we're going to have to do is put numbers in order, least to greatest, but you guys already know how to do that. If there is an even number of things in a list, the median is the average of the 2 middle numbers. So sometimes you need to find the average for the whole set, and then you need to find the average of just 2 numbers. The mode is the number that repeats the most in the list, what number is most often used. And the range is the difference between the least and greatest numbers. Now, there's a couple of cheat codes that I like to use in my mind to help me remember these. So mean, I have to just remember as average. Median, I like to think of like the word medium, which is usually like a middle size if you're talking about like clothes, or if you're talking about what size drink do you want with your meal. Medium is usually in the middle, and the median is the middle number. Another thing you can think about is if you're driving down a road and it's a divided road. So like if you're driving down like Sherman that our school's on, there's that little chunk of land between. There's 2 lanes that are going one direction, 2 lanes that are going the other direction. That little bit in the middle is called the median. It's separating the different lanes of traffic. It's in the middle of the road, it's the median. Mode means the number that happens most, and I remember that because they both have that long O in there. So mode has long O, most has long O. So that's how I remember mode. And range is just another one you have to kind of think about. Your like range in music is like how high you can sing and how low you can sing. So if you're in choir, your range is what's the lowest note I can sing, what's the highest note I can sing. Or the range of an instrument would be what's the lowest note that this instrument can play, or what's the lowest key on this piano, what's the highest key on this piano, what's the highest instrument that or note that this instrument could play. That's called the range. It's just the difference between high and low. Your median always has to fall, or excuse me, well, yes, your median also, but your mean, your average always has to be between your lowest and your highest number. It has to fall somewhere in between your range. So we're going to talk about how to do those data sets. I'm going to give you a heads up. Some of you already noticed this, but in your examples on the bottom, they have 69 degrees, 71, 74, 62, 65, 51 degrees. And then they want you to find the mean, median, mode, and range. None of those numbers repeat, so there is no mode. Look at number 2. They want you to find they didn't give us any labels. They still want us to find the mean, median, mode, and range of that data set. 29, 23, 30, 32, 25, 46, 18. Not a single one of those numbers repeated. So there's technically 2 correct answers for mode. You could say they're all the mode because they all appear as often as any other number in that data set. Or you could say there is no mode because no number appears more often than any other number in that data set. That is why we are not using any of these examples right now while I'm trying to show you how to find mean, median, mode, and range. Because I want to give you a data set that actually has a mode. And I'm going to use a real life example. I'm going to give you some numbers. We're going to pretend that those are your grades on some assignments. So let's say this is going to show you why it's so important for you to always be trying your best, but also why it's important that if you have an off day or something was confusing for you, or maybe you didn't have all of your tools that you needed to do your best that day, why it's always important to go back and do your corrections so you can get those points back. A lot of your progress reports said they need to turn their corrections. They're doing okay on most stuff, but if they have to do corrections, they're not turning them in. And then that hurts your average, which is why maybe most of the time you're getting really good grades, but a couple bad grades can really tank your average. We're going to see that in this data set. So we are looking at your math grades. So we're going to look at like 9 assignments. We're going to say we took like 2 weeks worth of work. It's the second week in the quarter. We want to know what's your average so far so we can do your progress report. Because if we were still in school, you'd be getting progress reports every Friday. So on the first assignment, you got an 80. You got 80 out of 100 points, or an 80%. On the second assignment, you got an 82. Then you got a 90. Then you got a 75. Still okay, but you're slacking a little bit. Then you're back to your normal. I got an 80. I got an 81. I got an 88. Oh man, we had a test and I was really tired that day, or I didn't want to keep working on the test. I wanted to be done so I could read in my silent reading book, or I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to be late getting out to recess. I got a 7. And then you're like, ooh, I can do better than that. And you did. You got an 80. So this is the data set that we are going to be working with. I should have done this at the top, so it would be really all in order. Think ahead, Miss Yeager. All right. So I got that smaller at the top, so it'll be out of the way for us to be working. There's all of your numbers. So the very first thing that you need to do if they want you to find median, and this is helpful so you can also find mode very easily, is you need to put numbers in order, least to greatest. And you need to be careful that you don't skip a number or write a number more than once that shouldn't be written more than once. So it's always a good idea to, if you're using a pencil, cross the number off once you've written it down in your data set. So 7 is my lowest number. I don't want to have to rewrite this, so I'm going to underline it. So I know that I already transferred that to my least to greatest line. Then 75 is my next highest number. There's a huge difference between that 7 and that 75. You're going to see how that makes such a big difference in a little bit. Then I got 80, and I actually got 80. I got 3 80s. 80 is pretty solid. So I got an 80. Then I got another 80. Then I got another 80. So I got all of those underlined. I have an 81. I have an 82. I'm starting to write really crooked. An 88. And a 90. So I have all of my numbers written from least 7 to greatest 90. That's the first step. So if I want to find my median, I can find that right away because I'm just going to figure out what my middle number is. So I'm moving in. Normally I would show you pointing with my fingers, but I can't hold this up with one finger and point with one finger. So 1 on each side, another 1 on each side. This would be like if we're making an array and we want even numbers in our columns. Then another 1, and another 1. Oh, and I'm right smack here in the middle. I can see that my median, I'll write that down at the bottom, my median is 80. That is my middle number when I'm lined up least to greatest. My median is 80. Now, what if I didn't have that 80 there? If I had an even number? What I would have to do is figure out just the average of 80 and 81. So I'd end up with 80.5 as my median. You're not going to have any halves on your problem. You will have one problem that's going to have a set number, an odd number in the data set. So you will have an actual one single number for a median, and 2 that you're going to have to average, but it's going to come out to a whole number. I'm going to put 80 back there. 80 is my median. And I'm going to do mode right away too, because that's an easy one to find out right away. I'm going to look and see which one occurs the most in my data set. And I have one of every number except for I've got 3 80s in here. 80 is my mode. So 80 is both my median and my mode. My mode is also 80. Now, what if instead of an 82 here, what if this person got an 88? Now I've got 2 88ths. 80 is still the mode because there's 3 80s and there's only 2 88ths. Now, to find the range, I am going to subtract the smallest number in my data set from the highest number in my data set. So it's going to be 90 minus 7. My range is going to be the difference. So it's a subtraction problem. 90 minus 7. If you wanted to regroup, you could, or you could just do mental math. Either way, whatever's easier for you. I could do 10 minus 7 is 3. 8 minus 0 is 8. Your range is 83 points. So a huge difference between your highest grade and your lowest grade. Now, finding the mean is the most labor intensive, but good thing we just did lesson 96 at the beginning of this video. So we're going to buckle down and we're going to add up a whole bunch of numbers. So 7 plus 5. Now, you can line this up vertically. That would probably be easier, but I'm running out of space. So I'm just going to keep, I'm going to group this. I'm going to do mini ones going down. So 7 plus 5, I can add those pretty easily mentally. So 7 plus 5 is 82. 82 plus 80 is going to be 162. Now I'm going to do 162 plus 80. Or if I wanted to chunk this, I could do 80 plus 80 is 160. And then I could do 162 plus 160. 2 plus 0 is 2. 6 plus 6 is 12. 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3. The cool thing about addition is there's so many different strategies that you can use for addition. And whatever is easier for you, that's what you should use. The main important thing is that you add them all up and you get to the correct answer. If it's easier for you to chunk it, if it's easier for you to line it up vertically and look for groups of 10, if it's easier for you to do 2 problems at a time and then line it up vertically, whatever works for you is totally okay. It doesn't matter which strategy you use to get to your total, the sum that you're going to subtract. So I've got 322 here. 81 plus 81 is going to be 163. So I'm going to do 163 plus 322. 3 plus 2 is 5. 6 plus 2 is 8. 1 plus 3 is 4. This will be very easy when you, once you're old enough to be using calculators, but you have to learn the hard way first before you can use the cheat codes. 88 plus 90 is going to be 178. 485. 8 plus 5 is 13. 1 plus 7 plus 8 is 16. 1 plus 1 plus 4 is 6. And I have no more numbers that I still need to use. So my total for all the scores in that data set is 663. I had to take a quick look at my notebook to make sure that that's the answer I got the first time that I was practicing this problem. All right, so I'm going to erase all of my work right here. 663 is the total for that data set. That's not my average. So I need to take that sum and I need to divide it by the number of scores. So we had 9 assignments, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 assignments, and the total for all the points scored in 9 assignments was 663. I'm going to take 663, divide it by 9. 9 cannot go into 6. So 0 times 9 is 0. 6 minus 0 is still 6. Bring down your 6. 66 divided by 9. 9 definitely fits into 66, not evenly, but the closest one would be 7. 7 times 9 is 63. 66 minus 63 is 3. Something didn't add up correctly because I'm going to end up with a decimal. And that's not what I got the first time that I practiced this problem. I wanted to make sure I got an even number for you guys, but that would be 33. Did I subtract something wrong? I'm going to pull my phone out. I'm going to cheat, you guys. Sorry about that. That's really confusing. Yeah, that's correct. 7 there. I did this wrong the first time I did it. But you know what? You use decimals in the math grading system. So 33 divided by 9, the closest that I'm going to get is 3, which would be 9 times 3 is 27. 33 minus 27 is 6. So it would be 73 and 6/9. So almost 74%. I'm going to round that up. So 74 would be the average. None of your problems on your worksheet are going to be this difficult. And you can see that number, if I added it to my lineup of least to greatest, would fall right here between the 7 and the 75. It would be one of my lowest scores. Shouldn't the average be a number that I'm scoring most often or closer to the number that I'm scoring most often? That should be a better number. So your average can be brought down a lot by having one bad grade. So I actually did the work, and I used a calculator on the next part just so I could illustrate a point. If you got 7 out of 100 and you decided, oh, I don't like getting a 7. I'm going to work really hard. I'm going to do all of my corrections, and you got back half points, you'd get back 46.5 points on that. So really, this score, if I rounded up, instead of a 7, your lowest score would be a 54. And then if I averaged it all out, instead of your average being 74, your average would be a 79, which is a lot closer to what you normally scored. You scored an 80 most of the time. But 79 would be your average if you did your corrections. 74, a whole 5 points lower, which is the difference between getting a C and a D, is the difference between doing your corrections and not doing your corrections. So that's why it's really important for you to try hard on every single assignment, because it's so much easier to just start off with a strong start and keep going, or saying, oh, I was working really, really hard. I had a really great average and I had one bad assignment. But if you're starting out lower, it's harder to bring that average back up. And that's why it's also very important to be doing your corrections. It makes a huge difference in your grade. Doing corrections on just that one assignment brought that person's average up by 5 whole points. It's a lot harder to move your average than it is to just score better from the beginning. So that is why I wanted to use these. I should have double checked my arithmetic before to make sure that there were no fractions and mixed numbers in this problem. You will have only whole numbers on the problem set that you're working on. So you have 3 problems. The first one and the second one kind of went over. You have to do mean, median, mode, and range for both of them. We went over the mode issue. That's why I wanted to show you an example with more than one number repeating. Number 2 has an odd number in the data set, so you're going to have a straight up median. median. You're going to have to do a little bit more work on number 1. The number 3, they only want you to find the median. You don't have to find every single part of that data set. You don't need to find your range. You don't need to find your average. However, you are going to need to line things up least to greatest in order to find that median. Your median's not just your middle number. It's your middle number when everything is arranged least to greatest. And then it asks you to explain how you found that median, and you're going to know why it asks you to explain. So lesson 76 and lesson 96 and lesson 97 are both going to be uploaded for you in the Google Classroom at the same time so that you can work on both of them if you want. If you want to watch this video and then work on your problems from both worksheets, and then, hey, now on Tuesday, I don't have anything that I need to do, take a day off or work ahead, that's totally your call. Or what you can do is watch the first part of the video, do lesson 96, and then the next day, start where you left off. I will put on there where lesson 97 starts, what time you would need to be at to start lesson 97. I'll put that on there for you when I upload this to Google Classroom, and you can start from there and go on. Or maybe you want to say, mean's a big part of this, so I'm going to watch the whole video so I remember how to do averages, but I know I already did that worksheet. All really good options. So please, if you have any questions, you can leave them in comments. You can text or email me. You can sign up for a video conference to go over more information. Lesson 96 and 97 are super intense, but they connect to each other really well, which is why I wanted to do one longer video for both of them. There's also going to be a link in this, in the description at the bottom, to tell you about another video with a cool parody song to help you remember the difference between mean, median, mode, and range. So have fun, and I will be back on Wednesday for lesson 98.